Hi, my name is Jarrod Walker, and I have a couple of poems for you today. My first poem is called You're a Nice Guy. You're a nice guy. Thanks. I get that a lot. Almost too much. I don't know what it really means. We should value nice people because being nice is a good thing, but when I hear it, all I can think is, you're boring. But that's not very nice, is it? Can a person be likable by just being nice? What does a nice person even do? Do they have hobbies? Do they go to parties? Do they have thoughts? Or do they like poetry? My mom says I'm nice, but she's my mom. How do you raise your kid to be nice? Are you born nice? I guess that's like asking if you're born happy. Maybe it's genetic. Maybe it's what happens when being mean is not enough. Would you notice if all the nice people left? Who will open the door for us? Who will put the fries in the bag? Who will tell me I don't look fat? Who will come to my dog's funeral? Who will tell me it'll all be okay? Relax, don't worry, I'm nice. Walk this way, you'll be okay. I'll lower your dog into the grave. I'll sneak something extra in your bag. I'll hold the door when you pass, and I'll never leave you. Because I'm nice, remember? What are you, friend? And my second poem is called Good Morning. If there's one thing I blame myself for, it's the fact that I kept it a secret for so long. I engraved it on my neck with hot iron, sewed my throat shut so I could not speak. Years passed, no one noticed my inability to form a coherent sentence. They'd ask, what's wrong? And steam would spout from my ears, sulfur spilling. They stare at me and I stare back, menacing, roars, fox fucking, racehorse, dying. Have you seen my baby? Someone's lost their leg, you can't feel your face. Why is my dog not moving? Grandma's dancing, now she's pissing on the floor. You say, I just can't do this shit anymore. You scream, you sweat, begin to choke. I'm lost in the woods, there are people here, but no one's home. Lord, please take me home. Bury me, let me know you'd never let a child cry themselves to sleep. Grass upon my grave, walk backwards, peace.
Snap, 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 snap. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind. Thank you so much, Jarrod, for being with us.
Of course.
This is Jarrod Walker, a Connecticut poet who I'm so grateful that you came to share your poetry with us today, because I definitely think it speaks to the heart of what I think a lot of people are feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Just a little bit of, like depleted, a little bit of like world weary. It kind of, your poetry made me feel like cocooning, which I have been doing. So it was perfect timing to hear your poetry, so I don't feel like I'm so alone.
Oh, yeah.
And before we get into our writing prompt, I would love for you to share with the audience what inspires you the most in your writing.
That's a great question. I think what inspires me most is probably just my lived experiences from the past, like growing up in, in Bridgeport, Connecticut. It was pretty rough. Family went through a lot of hard times. I went through a lot of hard times, and it definitely helped me grow a lot, but it was a lot to deal with for like a long time. I'm a lot better now, but I feel like it's helped me better understand like the world and suffering in general and how it shapes who it is we are and how it affects how it is we interact with people and stuff like that. And I think that goes a lot into my poetry, just like the everyday lived experience of like living in a world where so much is going on and you don't really know always like what to do about it or what the solution is, et cetera.
Yeah, and then it becomes inspiring to other people, like how I felt when I, heard your opening poetry. I really did say to myself, okay, I'm not alone, and we have to be reminded of that all the time, which is why I think poetry is so important. It's not like we just hear one poem and relate, and then we're like, okay, we're not alone forever. But it's like we forget the next day. We hear a poet, and then we can relate. We forget, we hear a poet, and then we can relate, which is why I really love this prompt. I'm going to share with you why I love it in a few minutes, because audience, it's your turn to write. You're going to get out your journal. And if you've been following me for a while, you know what to do. And please go back to our first season to do some brainstorms to warm up the brain. But for those of you who have been with me for a while, you are already warmed up. You're going to number your lines 1 through 10. because we're going to write a 5 to 10 line poem. The prompt is nice. This is a very easy way to start writing. If you go over 10 lines, it is okay. This is just to show you that it's easy, it's accessible. Anyone can write 5 lines, so there's no excuses. So grab your pen, grab your journal. If you want to pause and write your poem, you can, or you can hear ours first to get inspiration and then go write it at your own time. And please do share your poems with us on the Facebook group, Speak Your Mind. Please join our group, or you can email it to me at speakyourmind@myyahoo.com. All right, so the prompt is nice. So I always go first because I like to save the best for last, and our guest is always the best. Our artist is always the best. All right, you ready?
Ready.
Okay. Nice. Don't call me nice. That's a label fitting too tight. Forced to smile when my sister wouldn't, and carried it like a badge. To not get beat with words or thumbnails painted pretty, like the afro bun squeezed tight into elastic bands on the top of my head. Aching each time the scolding says, "That's not very nice."
I like that a lot.
Thank you. All right, let's see what you got.
Okay. So this is my poem, Nice. One day I hope to have something nice, something you can come home and put over ice, a coffee or tea, something sweet and soothing to complete me. It's like a little collection, books and playthings, stuff you can share with friends and family, smile and say, I wish every day could be this way, be this beautiful.
Nice. Nice, audience. Nice. I want to hear what your nice is. I love this prompt because of the variety of places that you can go with it. Because at first, like, I was thinking nice, and I was thinking kind of like the poem you wrote. Like, okay, what are all the things in my life that are nice? Then when I really sat with it, I was thinking more along the lines of what the poem that you shared, like kind of that, that conflict between being authentic and being nice and being polite. And so what inspired me about it definitely was this memory of being a child. I also come from a very challenging upbringing, challenging family, and I was the good girl. And I had siblings that were the rebel. So they were allowed to say they were angry. They were allowed to say, no, I'm not doing that. They were allowed to be able to be the not nice people because they were labeled as the rebel. And they still got some grief for it, but not as much because it was expected from them. So, I was required to make up for their deficit by being the nice one. So if my sister, didn't say hello to a neighbor, my mom would usher me in to be like, go say hi, go say hi.
Oh, yeah.
And then I got pigeonholed into being this nice person that I started really suppressing and stuffing my feelings, and I would never speak up for myself. And that ended up giving me really bad anxiety. And I still have really bad anxiety right now because I'm always so afraid that if I'm authentic and I say I don't like something or I don't want to do something or something's not right for me, I'm so worried someone's going to get mad at me and yell at me and scold me for not being nice. And so I have to constantly break out of that mask, but also not go so far the other way, because there was a period of time when I really did rebel against it, and I'm like, fine, I'm like, screw that. Like, everyone's, it's expecting me to be nice all the time, so I'm going to show them a different side of myself.
Yeah, the villain era.
Yeah, so I'm like, I'm just not. I'm just going to say it how it is. But that tipped the scale in the other way, where I'm like, well, that's not quite me. I am this nice person, but I'm not this doormat that the facade of nice forces you to be. So I'm really curious about what inspired you to bring me this prompt, as well as dissect both of your poems for me, because they, like I said, they both have the different angles, that sort of deeper thinking, deeper heart stuff about how it is, it could be a noose around your neck being nice, but it also is this lovely thing where it's like it helps us to highlight the things in our life that we find that are nice and comforting.
Yeah, you explained it very well. The word nice has like a lot of different connotations. You can think about it as, generally nice things and things that aren't quite nice either. Yeah, and I think when I was young, my mom said I've always been like a very nice boy, stuff like that. And yeah, I've never really like related to people who like are more like selfish, I guess, because I've never really been that way. And it's hard for me to be mean to people, but I've noticed that over time, like my people-pleasing ways have been kind of unhealthy, which is something I've had to like unlearn over the years. My poem, Nice, it came from, that, people-pleasing, mentality and like trying to work through it. And, when people like see you as just like this nice person, it can almost seem like, that's all they really know you for. And, there's all sorts of stuff to a person, but over time it can seem almost like being called nice is just like someone really saying that you have like no personality really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's rough to like think about, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you are like almost like an energetic little brother. Even though my siblings are nothing like you, but I feel like just from your energy, I'm like, oh, okay, like if I was gonna have a doppelganger little brother, like you would be it, because I feel like we have sort of a similar maybe persona, we have our real persona that's all this deep thinking stuff and dynamic, but we have this outside persona where it's like, okay, we have to do the right thing, we don't want to make anyone mad, we hope little ladies across the road, but inside sometimes it's like we want to like, kind of like punch a wall.
Yeah, it's hard to, express your like true feelings because, it's not always safe to tell, just anyone how you feel. So you keep it hidden. I guess it's just a matter of like learning like who is like your people and who's like not so much your people.
So true, so true. And I'm glad that you have that lesson at a young age. How old are you?
I'm 27.
27. So, to have that at 27 is great, because it took me a long time to get there. But if you're young enough and you can realize like, okay, I can still be a nice person, but I don't have to be beholden to that. It just gives you so much freedom. So that way, like you said, people, they don't pin you in this corner. They know that you're a dynamic person that sometimes is nice, but sometimes not. So like, don't mess. Right? And that's what I think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Why I think people like us, poetry is so imperative. Because I think through poetry we can utilize many different voices. We can write about poetry that is the nice, pretty stuff, but we can also go to some darker themes, especially exploring the stuff from our past that wasn't so pretty, and to be able to do it in a safe way. I think if I didn't have poetry, I would have imploded.
Yeah.
It really would have imploded, because it's the only way you have this sort of free forum to kind of tell it like it is. Tell people to go, I'm gonna say, go fuck yourself. But you can say it in a poem. But even saying that, it makes me feel like, oh boy, people are gonna be like, but she's not a person who swears. I'm like, yeah, I do all the time, but my nice persona doesn't show it to certain people. Yeah. So how has poetry been able to help you in breaking out of that mask?
Ever since I was in middle school, I've been like writing poetry on and off. My uncle, before he died, he always, he was a poet, and he like helped me like write poetry and encouraged me to write and like make art and stuff like that. Yeah, and as the years went by, and I started writing poetry more and more because like of all the different stuff going on, especially in high school, it's horrible for everyone, basically.
Right.
So, and there's not always someone you can really like talk to about how you feel, especially when everyone else is like dealing with what they feel, and they can barely handle their own emotions, let alone someone else's. So it's like you use, art and poetry as a means of like expressing those emotions and getting them out, which is what I did. Yeah, expressing those like deep, like darker feelings that like there's no one to really like, commiserate them with and hear what they think.
Yeah, and I have a feeling you're probably in high school were like me. You were everybody's friend, the person who everyone came to tell about their hard stuff. But when it came to you sharing, they were kind of didn't want to hear it,
a little bit,
or probably part they didn't want to hear it, but part we didn't want to burden because as people pleasers. And so that's a tough position to be in, because you can feel like you have all these friends and supportive friends, but if you're not letting out your true feelings, you can feel completely isolated. Now, right at the get-go, did you write about this deep stuff, or did you start off with like kind of hiding a little bit of that?
I think it was like from the get-go, I'd write about some pretty deep stuff, because I've always been like a pretty deep thinker, I guess. I remember when I was young, and like I remember I had this dream that I died in my dream. This was like in like grade school or something like that. Like I was like clawing up the stairs and like I couldn't like walk or whatever. And then I woke up and I felt like so horrible and I was crying and I wanted to tell my mom how I felt and she was like, "Don't worry, Jarrod. Like when you die, you'll go to heaven." And I don't know. It didn't help me too much.
Yeah, right. Like, okay. But what do I do about the dreams?
Yeah.
That doesn't help me now. Yeah. And so with that, so that's actually very brave of you that you started writing like that right from the get-go. You know, and I think I was that way too, but I kind of had it secret. You know, so I would write some of these darker themes, but I did it in a way where it's like I had like people in my life who I admired, like you know, not necessarily friends, but maybe mentors who wrote a little bit darker themed stuff, mostly guys. You know, the women, especially when I, you know, was in high school, didn't really, no, it wasn't for us. You know, but the men poets can. They can be the brooding, melancholy, you know, Doc Martin wearing, write about, you know, the raven and the tornadoes. And so I would look to those people who were kind of like the, you know, the rebellious poets. And so I would like mimic them and write stuff on my own in that tone, but I didn't quite assimilate it as like my poetry until much later. You know, when I was able to kind of, when I sort of went through, when I came to grips with sort of the hard times that I went through, and then I realized like, oh, okay, like now poetry is going to be therapeutic. You know, where at first it was just performance, like I'm a theater person, I'm an artist, so you do poetry as part of this kind of artist persona, and later on I realized, oh, this can be really super therapeutic. And so, how do you use the poetry as a therapeutic thing for you to kind of heal and grow?
When I was younger, there were some times where it felt like poetry wasn't so therapeutic. I guess because like I was dealing with so much, and then to write about it and having to like read it back, it would almost like re-traumatize you in a way or something like that. But I feel like as I got older, like being able to, you know, express how I feel and like even show it to people and have them be like, "Oh, hey, I relate to that too," it helped a lot. Yeah, just being able to just feel and create, because artists, like when they don't create, it just feels like life is meaningless almost.
There's so many times like I go back and read poems that I wrote from a depressed state, and I'll read it and I feel like I was writing messages to myself. You know, as I wrote it, it was, you know, it was cathartic. I got it out, but it was like the third or fourth time years later that I'm like, whoa, like how did I know that I was going to need this statement at this point in my life? And I probably should do it more. You know, I suffer from what every artist suffers from. Can we watch ourselves? You know, can we read our own work? It's hard to do that sometimes because we get so self-conscious as artists, even though we're putting it all out there. So sometimes I just avoid it because, like you said, it could be re-triggering. Like, but every time I do, I'm like, man, like the code is right in there. It's almost like I feel our soul is giving us the messages we need to create our own healing. Yeah. So what are you up to now? So I know you do the open mic surgery, which is where we met in New Haven. Open mic surgery, which is a really great open mic. Brian Embers was on our show.
Yeah, he's really good.
Before we met at a book release party. 2 of my poems was published in their Volume 2 collection of poets. And what I love about what Brian does is he does take the poets and he does bring in their poetry and he puts it in a collection of work. So it really does feel like a community. So how did you come to find them there, and what works have you done with them?
I will be in their next book this summer, but I found out about them through a friend who attends like a different event at Neverending Books. It was back in September, and I've been going every Tuesday night since. It's really fun. Right now, I started a social media account for my poetry. Yeah, J, like letter J, Walker Poets, but instead of an S, it's a Z.
Okay, so J Walker Poets, but with a Z, not an S.
Yeah, on Instagram.
On Instagram, J Walker Poets with a Z on Instagram.
Yeah, and I'll be posting some more stuff this year.
Awesome.
I also made a zine.
What's a zine?
A zine, it's like a little magazine that you self-publish, just like your art or your writing or whatever it is you want to talk about. Yeah, and you can like either sell them or you just like give them out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Are you on Facebook?
I'm not on Facebook. I'm mostly on Instagram.
I was going to say you can post it on the Facebook group.
Oh, yeah.
But find him on Facebook and at Open Mic Surgery, which is at 7 o'clock Tuesday nights in New Haven on 810 State Street.
State Street, yeah.
So awesome. I absolutely love your poetry, and thank you for
so
going
much.
deep. And it's nice to get to know your personality as well.
You too. I love to
yeah, so again, it is about building a community of different poets and artists, and I got to get out there more, for sure. But you're going to do some more poetry for us?
Oh, yeah, of course.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Folks at home, thank you so much for joining us. But stay tuned. Don't go anywhere, because we have more from our featured poet.
This poem is called Zookeeper. Friends are people you can trust to be there when you need them most, I hope. When you asking me how my day went, I start to choke. There's only so much they need to know, I tell myself. But I want to tell them everything. I want to tell them about the dogs, the cats, the frogs, the bats, lions and tigers, the bears and the beavers, and all the goats that I can't cope with, all these animals running around. My peripheral vision, I keep them in great supply. A friend would know what to do, but I think they have their own lives, their fish to fry, to bob out of barrels in their minds, pack away in tin cans they'll seal away and hopefully never look at again. God, I wish these possums would just stay dead. Don't misunderstand, I can do it myself. I'm a zookeeper of thoughts, don't tap the glass, it's thin. And this last poem is called Today is the Day. Every day I wake up and think, today is the day I turn it all around. But tomorrow comes and I'm here in bed and I'll say the same thing to myself again. Today is the day I turn it all around. I'll wake up at 8 a.m., but on second thought, maybe 6, and I'll go to bed before midnight. I won't drink coffee, but maybe decaf. I'll drink 2 cups in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and if anyone asks me why I'm so shaken up, I'll just say I'm really excited to be out and about and living life. And after a long day, I'll get home and I'll scroll on my phone until 2 a.m. and I'll wonder where all the light went, and I'll say, today is the day I turn it all around. There's so much work to be done. I haven't been sleeping well and it's all just piling up. I haven't showed up to class in weeks. I have no idea what's on these worksheets. I should ask for help, but I'm tired. Maybe later I'll go watch TV. When night comes, I'll have more energy, I think. I'll turn in my homework half finished, good but not good enough, but don't worry. Today is the day I turn it all around. Everybody who doesn't like me, fuck them. Family, friends, who needs them? I am perfectly independent on my own, so when I'm eating dinner alone and replaying the conversations over and over, I won't cry. I'll make the most out of my life, and when I take a shower, I won't worry about how we were supposed to go to the movies or how you didn't love me the way I needed. And when you call me, I won't pick up because there's so much work to be done, and I'm not sleeping well or having much fun because I'm bad at this. So I'll lay awake wondering if that's just the way it is, but it doesn't matter because why are all these people dying on my phone? I don't know their names, but I know there's a lot of them. I see them laying on the ground and I want to throw up. My mother taught me people should be kinder, but no one seems to think so. Said I should pray to God, tell him to come save us all, but I've seen this all before and I want to turn it all around. Will you?